After a dominant performance over JAMEL Herring to become a 2-division champion, Shakur Stevenson calls out, you guessed it, Oscar Valdez. Shakur says, quote, "There's only one fight left at the end of the day. Oscar Valdez can't keep ducking. The 130-pound division needs to unify, so let's get it." Ugh. Will we see Shakur Stevenson versus Oscar Valdez? This is an amazing unification. Shakur Stevenson coming off of probably his career best performance. Oscar Valdez, not so much. A lot of people thought he lost his last fight with Robinson Conceição, but nonetheless, he emerged victorious even though he failed a VADA test and they changed the rules. So we're going to talk about all that and more in this video. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Listen, don't know how you found my video, but YouTube and you and the stars align. Help others find the video by smashing on the like button. It goes a long way. Simple, free, painless gesture that you all can do. Takes a couple seconds. Pause the video if you need to, and it'll help others find the content. Now, I did a post-fight breakdown, Shakur Stevenson versus JAMEL Herring. Shakur definitely delivered. He ticked off all the boxes, the check boxes. There was out of fight, out of competition distractions or potential distractions. His girlfriend is pregnant. He's going to be a first-time father. And I think this comes into play, and it's important because at the end of the day, a first-time father, I know personally a lot of people, when their girls get pregnant, they end up gaining a lot of weight. Shakur didn't have any blips or mishaps with his weight. He made weight no problem. His girl is pregnant, you know, just the challenges that are associated with becoming a first-time father and not knowing everything. And he kept everything glued together, stayed the course, and he did everything he said he was going to do versus JAMEL Herring. He really did. Now, I was of the belief that Shakur could definitely win the fight, but JAMEL could push him, and he didn't. Like, from what I seen, the fight looked relatively easy. I'm not saying it was easy in terms of Shakur didn't have to train or anything, but at the end of the day, Shakur, his strategy seemed to be working from the onset to the conclusion in the 10th round. So a spirited effort from JAMEL Herring, good sportsmanship from both, especially Shakur Stevenson, who kind of embraced the villain role. After the fight, he apologized to JAMEL Herring's wife, and, you know, he moves on as the new WBO champion at 130 pounds, which leads obviously to the next question. Will Top Rank and Bob Arum put together a unification? This boy Shakur Stevenson just dazzled. He shut up any critic off of his last performance. And keep in mind, I was one of those people who I said he did his thing. He won all the rounds versus the Nakathila dude, but it left something to be desired. He's a silver medalist, and I expected him to put it together a little bit different. But as I always tell you on my channel, the most important thing is securing that W, getting that victory, and then you can worry about perfecting your craft and whatever. It's better to win and have an ugly win and just keep it pushing and learn from it and get better. And that's what Shakur did. He didn't let any of the negative talk, like Tim Bradley said some things, other people were ragging on his performance in his last fight. He didn't let that discourage him, and he just stuck to the game plan and continued to try to perfect his craft, and it all came out on full display versus JAMEL Herring. Now, Oscar Valdez is going to look extremely bad if he does not fight Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson, again, he shut up all critics. You can't say he ran. You can't say it was boring. You can't say it wasn't a meaningful fight. He's now a champion in a new division. He's a 2-weight division champion, just like Oscar Valdez is a 2-weight division champion. And it's a great stylistic contrast. Oscar Valdez, he has a big punch. He's a 2-peat Olympian. Shakur Stevenson is a silver medalist Olympian. They need to fight. Now, I believe that the reason they haven't fought to this point is not because of Shakur Stevenson. And I think this is almost irrefutable in proving so. If you look at it, Oscar Valdez is mandatory at 126 pounds featherweight. Their previous division was Shakur Stevenson. When that happened, Shakur was all for it. he told the world publicly, and I can pull up all this, you guys can do your own fact check, is good. Shakur had been calling out Oscar Valdez at featherweight. He worked his way up the rankings. He was the number one position. All of a sudden, Valdez's team said he can't make weight anymore, and making weight is a struggle. Coincidentally, before Valdez's very last fight in a new division, 130 pounds, he got busted for phentermine, which is a stimulant and a controlled substance that helps and aids in what? Weight loss. So that's a bad look, because it's public that Oscar Valdez said he had struggles making weight, and conveniently he had struggles making the weight when Shakur became his mandatory. So he just moved up. He moved up out of featherweight before Shakur Stevenson, and Shakur was left to fight Joet Gonzalez in a one-sided fight. I was at that fight live, and Shakur Stevenson beat Joet Gonzalez. The buildup was kind of weird because Shakur was dating Joet Gonzalez's sister, and his family didn't like it or something. Anyway, Shakur Stevenson beat him. I think he held back a little bit in that fight out of respect for the family or whatever. And then he moved on to become a champion. But right after he became a champion, Shakur moved up, and he moved up to 130, where Oscar Valdez became a champion by knocking out Miguel Berchelt. So the stars have aligned, and I think this is the next order of business that really needs to happen. Both guys are at 130. Both guys are Olympians. Both guys have had good performances this year, even though Valdez's last performance with Robinson Conceição wasn't the best performance. Earlier this year, he fought Miguel Berchelt, and at that point, he passed his VADA testing, so that was a good performance from him. It's a great contrast to styles, and they're both with top rank, so there's really no reason that they can't get this fight. I think the walls are closing in for Valdez, and that's what Shakur is saying. He's telling you, he's saying, hey, I've been calling out him. There's only so long he can duck. Now you can understand, because black fighters are constantly marginalized in this sport of boxing, and I'm always going to speak on the real. And you see black fighters are constantly relegated to boring, and they can't sell, and these different misnomers and things to throw the dogs off the scent. You can't say none of that with Shakur Stevenson and what he delivered. So I'm anxious to see what the new excuse will be. Eddie Reynoso, he's a great trainer. So Valdez has a great trainer behind him. They're both Olympians. They're both champions. Shakur is 100% right, 1,000% right. Unifications absolutely need to happen, especially when this is not like Shakur. See, and this is the thing that kills me. Old media, they get mad when fights don't happen, like Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr., and there are inherent problems in making those fights. Politics, sides of the street, different prerogatives. Like Premier Boxing Champs, they have a ton of welterweights that Errol Spence can and has been fighting outside of Terrence Crawford. It's Terrence Crawford that needs a PBC fighter to really, to be in the conversation of the best welterweights, because Top Rank just doesn't simply put at this point have the welterweights that he can battle, right? But that's not Premier Boxing Champ's fault. But my point is this: when it comes to PBC, people are always saying like, oh, why don't they make this fight, which is a crossover fight with the Top Rank fighter, which is inherently harder to make, then have that same energy for two guys who are on the same side of the street. They're in the same weight division. They're both Olympians. And one of the guys is vehemently calling out the other guy. And then the other guy, who I believe has ducked, is at least saying he'll fight Shakur Stevenson. That's what he said after the Berchelt fight. So there's literally no obstacles outside of the people in suits and or teams or, something particular to that situation in why that fight shouldn't or can't happen. Shakur seems to want it. I haven't heard one person from Shakur Stevenson's team or camp throw shade and say Shakur's not ready or say that's not a fight we want. And it's ironic because, like I said, black fighters are constantly marginalized in the world of boxing. And the funny thing is, people said and criticized, just like Devin Haney, they've criticized Shakur Stevenson saying he don't have no pop, he don't have no power. So he just got a 10th round stoppage over a champion as the challenger. So that kind of refutes and it looked like he was hurting JAMEL Herring. You know, for more on that fight, check my post-fight breakdown. So that kind of refutes that. But either way, that's even more reason for Oscar Valdez, who does have a punch and knocked out Miguel Berchelt violently, right? That's more reason for him to fight it. So it's like the walls are closing in also for old media, because these stale talking points that they want to stubbornly cling on to really make no sense. Why is it hard for Shakur Stevenson and guys like Devin Haney to get the fights they're calling for if they're pillow-fisted and boring and all that? You should be able to unify and get them out the way, take their strap, easy work, and then be on with your day. But that's not what's happening, because we know what it is, and we know that people are capping, and they know the value of these fighters, and they know these fighters are tremendous talents and could definitely spoil the party and take that strap up off you. That's why you see all this hesitation and, you know, deflection tactics. Let me know how I did. Oscar Valdez, Shakur Stevenson 2022. Make it happen. And I'm out.